Caregivers RGHTS and responsibilities. Module content. Module outcomes. Aim of the module. What kind of caregivers are there? Who is the care person? Care person. Support measures specific to the man informal caregiver. How does the man informal caregiver support subsidy work? How much and when WLL receive? How long do you receive? What are the RGHTS of the informal caregiver? What are the duties of the informal caregiver? How do apply for informal caregiver status? About the European Union. References. Lesson outcomes. Making use of laws. Be informed about the caregiver status. To know your rights and duties. Aim. This module also aims to give a vague idea of what the caregiver's rights and responsibilities are in Europe. However, you should always clearly inform about their country's rights and duties in order to defend themselves and use them at your favor. What kind of caregivers are there? Who is the care person? There are two types of caregivers. Primary informal caregiver. The main informal caregiver is considered to be the one who accompanies and cares for the person being cared for permanently, who lives with them in a housing community and who does not receive any remuneration for professional activity or for the care he/she provides to the person cared for. Non-primary informal. Non-primary informal caregivers are considered to be the one who accompany and care for the person being cared for regularly, but not permanently, and who may or may not receive remuneration for professional activity or for the care they provide to the person being cared for. Care person. A person who is cared for is considered to be a person with a second-degree dependency supplement or a third-party assistance allowance, or a first-degree add-on holder, provided that he is temporarily bedridden or in need of permanent care, through a specific assessment of the system of verification of permanent disabilities, of Social Security. Who can be recognized as an informal career? Contents for the recognition of the informal caregiver status. The recognition of the informal caregiver status depends on the applicant fulfills the generic requirements and, in situations of primary informal caregiver, the specific requirements. The person being cared for complies with the requirements and gives his consent. Informal caregiver status can only be recognized by one caregiver per household. Recognition of the status of informal caregiver depends on the caregiver cumulatively meeting the following requirements. Have legal residence in national territory. Be over 18 years old. Present appropriate physical and psychological conditions for the care to be provided to the person being cared for. To be a spouse or be in a legal union, relative or similar up to the fourth degree of the straight line or collateral line of the person being cared for. Who can be recognized as an informal career? Spec requirements for the man informal caregiver. In addition to the generic requirements, the recognition of the primary informal caregiver also depends on the cumulative verification of the following conditions. Live in a shared community with the person being cared for. Provide care on a permanent basis. Not engage in paid professional activity or any other type of activity incompatible with the provision of permanent care to the person being cared for. Is not receiving unemployment benefits. Not receive remuneration for the care he provides to the person being cared for. What are the measures to support informal caregiver? Common support measures for informal caregivers. 1. Reference professionals. 2. Caregiver-specific intervention plan. 3. Self-help groups. 4. Training and information. 5. Psychosocial support. 6. Counseling, monitoring and guidance. 7. Rest of the informal caregiver. 8. Promotion of integration into the labor market. 9. Reconciliation between professional activity and care. 10. Student worker status. Support measures specific to the man informal caregiver. The informal caregiver may also be entitled, in addition to common support measures, to the following specific measures. 1. Support allowance. 2. Enrollment in the voluntary social security regime. 3. Promotion of integration into the labor market. How does the man informal caregiver support? Subsidy work. 1. They have psychosocial support, home support and access to internment at units of the National Network of Integrated Continuous Care at a lower cost. 2. In the case of the main informal caregivers, they may also be entitled to the support allowance, which takes into account the resources, composition and income of the household, as well as access to the voluntary social insurance scheme that guarantees benefits for occupational diseases, maternity, disability pension, old age pension and death benefit. How long do you receive? 1. The support allowance for the main informal caregiver is suspended in the following situations. The informal caregiver fails to provide permanent care to the person being cared for more than 30 days. Institutionalization of the person cared for in social response or in hospitalization, for a period exceeding 30 days. What are the RGHTS of the informal caregiver? 1. The right to be recognized in the performance of his duties, as well as to receive training for the development of his abilities, to enjoy psychological support from the health services whenever necessary, to have time for rest aimed your well-being and emotional balance. 2. The non-primary informal caregiver is entitled to reconciliation between care and professional life. What are the duties of the informal caregiver? 1. To provide all the necessary support to the person being cared for. 2. To inform the doctors of any changes in the health status of the person being cared for and also to report to Social Security any change in the situation due to which the right to the status that was recognized. How do I apply for informal caregiver status? In Portugal, it is necessary to submit an application at the Social Security Services or through the Social Security Direct portal. About the European Union. About 80% of all long-term care in the EU is provided by family members, neighbors, or friends, and taking into account estimates that about 1 in 6 EU citizens are informal caregivers, it is likely to provide this type of care. One such measure is EU legislation on reconciling work and family life for parents and caregivers, whose entry into force in August 2019 introduced a caregiver license for workers who care for seriously ill or dependent family members. This directive is part of the European Pillar of Social Rights. Some measures that we can find in different countries. Sweden, one of the most peculiar tools is called 24-hour instant relief. It is a service, among others, that the caregiver can turn to whenever he is under more pressure or stress. Germany, all employees have the right to family assistance leave, being able to benefit from an absence of up to 24 months to care for a close relative, and they also have a monthly allowance for the provision of basic care at home. Some measures that we can find in different countries. Luxembourg, insurance systems provide caregivers with rest solutions that can extend to 3 weeks. Ireland, there are financial supports that can be used throughout the year, required by the caregiver. If the employee has to leave the labor market, the caregiver receives between €205 and €307 a week, a grant that can extend up to 104 weeks. Some measures that we can find in different countries. Finland, the country provides for the provision of 3 rest days a week to informal caregivers. Spain, in Spain, there is support for hiring a personal assistant. The amounts foreseen to finance informal care at home vary depending on the percentage of dependency, the types of benefits required and the patient's individual economic situation, ranging from €153 to €834. Some measures that we can find in different countries. France, you have a caregiver statute and, once employed, you are entitled to the same benefits as other workers. United Kingdom, the careers benefit is awarded to those who support a disabled person, and that is €88 a week. There are services at home and that can be from the provision of meals to technical support, and subsidies to reduce expenses with medical prescriptions, consultations, and travel expenses to hospitals. Some measures that we can find in different countries. Canada, the country has several state financial incentives. Denmark, The municipality is obliged to provide public subsidies and to ensure that it has tools and services that can be used by the caregiver when he needs to rest. The situation of the caregivers in the UE. Directive, EU, 2019-1158 of the European Parliament and of the Council of 20 June 2019. The possibility to take 5 days of extra leave per year. The right to request flexible working arrangements. The Caregiver Bill of Rights is also created. The right to have balance between caring for my loved one and caring for myself. The right to receive a financial break or tax credit for caring full-time for my loved one. The right to work for an employer who understands caregivers. The right to expect the nation's legislators to acknowledge the valuable service I perform and to enact policies that not only support those with the illness or disability but support their family caregivers as well. The right to expect that my loved one's medical advisors and healthcare professionals will recognize my critical role as part of the primary and long-term care team. The Caregiver Bill of Rights is also created. The right to have balance between caring for my loved one and caring for myself. The right to receive a financial break or tax credit for caring full-time for my loved one. The right to work for an employer who understands caregivers. The right to expect the nation's legislators to acknowledge the valuable service I perform and to enact policies that not only support those with the illness or disability but support their family caregivers as well. The right to expect that my loved one's medical advisors and healthcare professionals will recognize my critical role as part of the primary and long-term care team.